And here we are again. Welcome back. It's Friday. It's time for some crypto live trading action. If we find some nice entries today, it's time to talk a little bit about what is going on the crypto markets, which is, in my opinion, quite a lot. We've seen a lot of up and down. I remember 2 weeks ago when we did the last live stream, we were in the midst of this dump because of the German government dumping their Bitcoin, selling 50K of Bitcoin because of Mount Gox distributing the coins that are long overdue, that have been slumbering around for more than 10 years now to people. And all that led to a lot of pressure on the crypto markets, leading us all the way down to 53,000 US dollars. And the gentleman who's co-hosting the stream with me today, Jonatan, welcome, by the way.
Welcome.
Said 2 weeks ago.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's okay. Said 2 weeks ago, it's time to buy now. And he just said he did and got a
I hope you guys
entry.
bought. I hope you guys bought.
I hope you guys bought. I mean, he told you to buy 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
and
pretty
I
much.
think that was a very, very good tip. So today I actually would like to talk a little bit about now, since I think we are a little bit around an important area here for Bitcoin, at least at the moment. Is this going to continue now? Are we back into the bull market? Is there still trouble down the hatch? Or how should we as traders behave in a setting like this? What are like triggers to see a price is probably going to go higher now? What are triggers that put on a kind of the warning lights for us that we maybe should stay away? Maybe there's another dump. And I saw some people on social media still writing like, well, I'm expecting a dump down to 44 or even 40,000 US dollars. So yeah, time to dissect that a little bit and let the price and the charts, in my opinion, talk. Do you want to start, Jonatan?
Well, yeah, I think the first thing that we had to realize is that we asked the question, is the bull market on again? Well, I think it's important to remember that the bull market was never called off in the first place. We never entered the bear market. So I mean, what happened was we had to move to the downside. People panicked. I had a lot of people reach out to me asking, what can I do with this position? I'm in this all-com position. What should I do? Should I sell? Should I keep it? And that panic obviously came from being over-leveraged. And I'm sitting in my spot longs, just being completely calm and just I'm buying. I'm buying because I have this strategy. I dollar cost average on Bitcoin. Once every month, I buy a certain amount of Bitcoin, and I also buy when there's a big move to the downside. So, and I'm going to continue doing that. And like I said, my stop loss was all the way down here. Like my invalidation of this whole bull market is below 40K. So I'm very safe in my spot positions. Again, my biggest bag is bought around 20K. So I'm in a very good position here. So it's important to remember, we never enter a bear market. Did we talk about the possibility of entering bear market? Of course, but we're looking at the weekly time frame here. And, all that happened was we broke one support, came down, hit not even this support. We front ran that support, showing that there's a lot of buying pressure. We didn't even come down to test that support. We bounced on the 50% fib of the move using that low to that high. So I mean, there's the only thing that worried me was the fact that we had a weekly open and close below the weekly 20 EMA. So if you see this next weekly candle right here, see if I can print that one. Yeah, okay, so you see this candle right here where it closed right there and it opened down here. So that's a weekly open and close below the weekly 20 EMA. Now that is a bit worrisome because that usually, when that happens in a bull market, now the chances increases significantly that it's going to turn into a bear market. But now, a week later, or 6 days or 5 days later, we now have the weekly candle well above the weekly 20 EMA right here. So in 2 days and 13 hours at the close of the Sunday candle, we will have the weekly candle again above the weekly 20 EMA. Now, of course, anything can happen. We don't know. It might be something happening in the news that might push price lower. I don't think that's going to happen, though. And also, one thing we talked about in our last live stream was the fact that the move to the downside on Bitcoin was an isolated event in the world of crypto because of the German government selling huge amount of Bitcoin, which they then bought back. And then it started selling again. I don't even know what you guys are doing in Germany, but I don't think you're very good at Bitcoin.
we can have a chat about that in a moment. Yeah, I can say something to that.
And then we also have Mt. Gox. The rumors of Mt. Gox releasing a lot of coins onto the market. So, but that was an isolated event because we saw the S&P 500 and the EU were actually moving higher when that happened. So when you have that lag, because usually, Bitcoin is not a front runner in the risk assets. The front runners are usually the S&P 500 and the Dixie and the big currencies with huge amount of volume. Those are usually the front runner in this game. Bitcoin comes later. So when Bitcoin does something first, you can almost always assume that it's going to come back unless the other currencies continue or the other indices. So this to me was a very obvious play. Like, to me, this was buying fear in a bull market, which is a very, very good thing to do. If you recognize that there's the correlation between the risk assets are they're not correlated, and Bitcoin moves lower while the rest of the risk market or the risk currencies move higher, and there's fear in crypto, but there's no fear in the general market, then that's a great buying opportunity, which I think a lot of people missed.
I have to unmute myself here. I think really a lot of people miss that, and it's always the same story in my opinion. When there's FUD in this case in the market, same applies of course also to the upside for FOMO. People are, when there's FUD in the market, just afraid because they think, oh, I probably can still get it at a more discount than it is already. It's a 30% discount. Maybe I can get it at 35% or 40% discount. People get afraid, and this is very natural. This is a very natural reaction. This is also the kind of things, if you have ever worked in the corporate settings, you see like from management very often. They are defensive. They're not aggressive, they are defensive. They like to go with a trend, which not necessarily is a bad thing. But as you showed just now, Bitcoin is not a front-running asset usually. You will see usually the S&P 500, the euro dollar leading the way, as long as Bitcoin is still perceived, of course, as a risk-on asset. And this is exactly what happened here. This is also exactly what we've seen, really exactly what we've seen during the other bull market runs. After the halving, we have a period of time where things can get very choppy, sometimes to the downside, usually 20, 22, sometimes 30 or 40% of a pullback, just to see those, I want to call them now God candles, a little bit, that, erase all the stuff we did to the downside within just a couple of days. This is not unusual. And the longer you have been in the markets, in the crypto markets, the more used to get to this cycle of repeating things over and over again. I truly have never seen an asset such as Bitcoin that repeats the same patterns every 4 days, sometimes even to the day or nearly to the day, over and over again. It's really insane for me. Now, that of course does not mean that we are free of failure. Oh, by the way, here, before I forgot, this was, by the way, the result back. This is a trade you did a while ago. You remember on Ethereum?
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So that one ended up with a nice profit. Those
did.
guys out there who watch us more often will remember that we use here the VX exchange for trading live positions here very often on the exchange. So if you are interested in checking out that exchange, it's a no KYC exchange, by the way. You can do so by clicking onto the link in the description of this video. But back to Bitcoin now. You will remember last time when we were kind of in this area, I said like, okay, normally in a bull market, this bull market support band, which is the red and yellow line here, this is a good area to buy. This has really, in this bull market so far, 100% success rate. What I didn't anticipate for, I have to be very upfront here, is that we still would get this down slope here. What was that, like 10% lower? So I bought here around 62 and I think 61 and 59,000 US dollars. I didn't think that we would go to 53 or even almost 55 or almost 53,000 US dollars. What is interesting now for me, I agree, of course, with you, Jonatan, that we are still in a bull market. I don't see any reason here to not believe that. On the contrary, short term now, for me, what I would like to see is that we recapture first of all the yellow line, which is the second bull market support band, and you can see we kind of were deflected by it, and that we recapture, and this is right now, in my opinion, even more important, this 8-week simple moving average. So this is a daily chart, but the averages are weekly, because if we do so, I don't see why there shouldn't be an immediate reaction to attack our all-time high again. If we don't see that this week, if we kind of stay a little bit choppy, we don't like to, the market is a little bit reluctant of going to this. I'm looking for my drawing tool here. Did they change something here, or is it just me being?
Which drawing tool is it? Yeah,
the arrow tool. No,
the
but
arrow,
where
right?
you can
it's arrow. I think it's the arrow marker, right? No,
this one, no,
the arrow marker.
It doesn't matter. I'll just do this here. So if we are reflected around this immediate area here, there is of course a danger that we could go down again and test something like 60 or maybe even 55,000 or something like this. This is not completely out of the box, but again, these would be, in my opinion, very, very good areas to top up again, because the likelihood of something like this happening sooner or later, and if you watched my content, you will have noticed that I think end of October, early November, latest February 2025, this is what is going to happen. This is when we are going to see prices above 100,000 US dollars, in my opinion. Well, then this area, even this area now at 64,000, 65,000 US dollars, this is still a great area to buy. If the upside is like 100,000, if the upside is maybe even something like 150, 180 or 200,000 US dollars. But what we will probably see instead is that people are reluctant to buy now. They think, oh, I missed out on it again. I missed to buy at 55, 54,000 US dollars. I'm going to wait now until the prices go back. Maybe they don't go back, and then they start buying at 100K when it's almost too late. When we see maybe something like the MVRV Z-score, I know you look at that one a lot, Jonatan, approaching something like 6, when it's almost time to take your chips off the table again. This is like kind of my spin on things at the moment.
What do you, I think, looking at price action and market structure, I think what we are seeing right now is we're hitting a resistance, so I think it would be really great to get above, I mean, preferably 60, 67. That would really confirm it. So if I can start to see bullish market structure around 67, I'm going to be adding that right here. That's going to be around this area. Let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger. We can get above this line here and start to print bullish market structure in this area. To me, that would be a good opportunity for me to buy strength. Basically, what that means is, I when buying weakness, I want to make sure that I'm buying the fear in the market, buying in this area where you had a dump, but also buy some more when there's confirmation of this not being a bear market. So if we can get something like this and start trading here, buy add some extra to that dollar cost average strategy, because now we have strength. We confirm that we have strength in the market. And if you look at a resistance area like, let's say this one, we can probably put it in like that. Let's just look at the daily to make sure it's a good level. I think, yeah, that's good enough. So we have now, I would view this, at least on the weekly, I would view this as 1, 2, and then this is going to be the third retest. And usually what I see is when you have a level like this, the fourth retest is like after the third retest, the chances of a breakout becomes very high. So you have the first retest, and then the second, and then the third, and every test after the third is significantly increases the chance of a breakout. And you can easily just go through any financial market out there, and you will see that the first and the second retest usually a strong reaction. The third one, like if there's going to be a breakout, the third one slightly lower reaction, and then the fourth it has a fairly high chance of seeing a breakout. So I would love to see Bitcoin come up, test this level for a third time, maybe hold support here. I'm buying some. Fourth retest is where I'm expecting price to break out. Not expecting, but I know that the probability of seeing a breakout at that point is going to be quite high. So yeah, I think, and of course, on the flip side, we have this whole area right here is actually, resistance right now. So we are testing resistance, and we are in a local downtrend, even on the weekly. So we do have lower highs and lower lows. So it's very important that we do create at least a new, maybe higher low, maybe something like this, because we are technically in a local weekly downtrend. Because I'm viewing this as not the weekly uptrend, but this is simply the high time frame uptrend, and it's more obvious on like the monthly. But on the weekly, looking at the local structure, we are technically in a downtrend.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking we want to.
Sorry, I was like preparing a chart here right now. I wanted to show this again, and I mean, I'm kind of sorry that I have to bore you guys always with the same charts, but it's so important to keep this really in the back of your head and use charts like this. When in doubt, then just zoom out a little bit to get the whole picture. Let me just quickly put the last line here. That was like here. So last three halvings, 2016, 2020, 2024. And really, really what you have to, and this is really so important, what you have to keep in the back of your head. I want you to notice here the following thing. The time span until it took Bitcoin to break out of this green channel here. By this way, I know we talked about this last time. This indicator, the logarithmic regression, this one is now available on TradingView for free, open source. I recoded that one because the old version from whoever did it was not available anymore. So I recoded this in the version 5 of PineScript. If you look it up, it's called Bitcoin Logarithmic Regression by Crypto for Money. On TradingView, you can find this indicator for free. And I highly, highly recommend that you apply this one to the Bitcoin all-time history index provided by TradingView, put it to also logarithmic view, and just if you have those crazy days of FUD and also FOMO at the later stage of a bull market, use this chart to see, like, to kind of get an idea where are we really in the whole mix of things. And what you can see here is after the halving 2016, it took us about 300 days to break out of this green normal price channel, which I like to call it, of Bitcoin, and go into this frenzy phase, which is the phase here between the green and the red channel out here. Last time, 2020, it took us 192 days. Fast forward from the halving 2024, 192 days. We are at end October, early November 2024. If it takes us 292 days, we would be somewhere in February of 2025 when we can expect the price to break out of this channel. Now, right now, the upper layer of this green channel, the price is already at 90,000 US dollars. So if we go forward now by a couple of months, at least until end of October, early November, the price needs to be above 100,000 already to break out of this channel. The top of this channel, even if we were to reach just right now the higher band of a logarithmic regression, we would need a price of 181,000 US dollars. As time goes by, this is going to move well above 200,000 US dollars. So this is my expectation, at least, but of course, this is just my opinion, what we are dealing with. As I said before, Bitcoin is very good in repeating the same things over and over again. Of course, this is not like 2012 anymore. This is not 2016 anymore, where we can expect price to make like 100x or something like this. But we still can expect price to make 1.5, 2, or even 3, maybe even 4x from here. And this is we are not talking about like that you need to put your money down for the next 10 or 20 years for that. We are talking about a time span of maybe 1.5 years where this is going to happen. And I'm sure this is going to happen if, of course, there is not, like a black swan event like Corona last time, which also didn't have, in hindsight, like that much effect. But it was also a great chance to buy, but nobody wanted to buy anymore back then when we were at $3,000. So it's over and over again. And if you are new to this game and maybe yourself that you kind of like to listen or get infected a little bit with the FOMO, get a little bit infected at the moment with the FUD, use a chart like this. Can, of course, also be something else, just something where you zoom out a little bit, where you can clearly see, hey, there is this cycle that it seems to be repeating itself over and over again. Where in what cycle are we right now? Well, still pretty low, still pretty early. Seems like this is actually a good price to buy at the moment. And then you buy. You don't need to buy at once. You can do it like Jonatan, for example, by DCAing every month. And when you see then Bitcoin goes into this frenzy mode, as I like to call it, so breaks out over this channel here and starts having these wild volatility swings and finally touches this channel up here, well, then maybe it's time now to take your chips off the table, because maybe the bull market is about to end and then things are going down again. And then you wait 18 months until you reach something like this, where we have like the price touching the middle line, the lower bands of the logarithmic regression. In this case, we actually went a little bit lower than that already. Of course, it's always easy to say that something like this in the hindsight. And of course, there's no guarantee that this is going to repeat itself over and over again. But I don't see why it shouldn't. I have yet to see something where I think like this is going to break the cycle. On the contrary, we have institutional investors coming in. We have somebody like Donald Trump saying, I want to make Bitcoin like a national backup security like gold for the United States of America. Pardon me, I cannot imitate him very well. And I mean, leave aside now, I don't want to get political here, if he's really going to execute on this thing. Politicians have a tendency, of course, to say a lot of things in order to get votes and then forget about what they were saying. But let's just entertain this thought for a while now, that this happens. That suddenly you have the largest economy in the world, the United States of America, saying, we are, with a very low percentage, going to peg the US dollar either to Bitcoin, or we are going to accumulate Bitcoin for our national reserve to protect ourselves at least a little bit against the crazy things the Fed likes to do. What do you think is going to happen then? Then we are going to look back and probably hear very quickly things like, oh, you are so lucky that you bought at $64,000.
Yeah, exactly.
You are so lucky that you bought at $80,000. I think this is not accounted for enough at the moment when people talk about Bitcoin. Because remember also, I'm sorry for my monologue here, I'm getting super philosophical again. Remember, Bitcoin, what we see here, the price, Bitcoin, the functionality as an asset is just like an app on the blockchain itself. The true value of Bitcoin, of course, comes from the decentralized network that is behind it, that has reached a size that it's for any state out there almost impossible now to penetrate and to take over that network. It's just you would need on a daily level almost billions of US dollars now to do so. And this is not going to happen anymore. We have passed this stage where that was a danger.
We also have nations, countries like El Salvador, who have actually adopted Bitcoin as part of their, not sure exactly what to call it, but the treasury, the national treasury.
It's their local tender now as well, no? I mean,
yeah, so sort of like a part of their, part of their reserve currency, right?
Yeah.
And so it's possible. It's actually possible, and the country have not, gone to ruin because of that. So it's actually possible. So that tells me that this is just not a fantasy. It's not a fantasy. It's actually very possible, and the implications of having a transparent and open ledger when it comes to nations' treasury. Now, of course, they are probably always going to have a black budget for secret things and military spending and that sort of stuff. But to have imagine having an open public ledger that you can actually go into and see where's my money going? What's happening in my local jurisdiction? The money that I'm paying, how much of that goes to the actual welfare, and how much of that is going to personal expenses of politicians? Like, to actually go in and see that's democracy. That is financial democracy at its finest, right? Now, there needs to be a balance between privacy and public available knowledge. So, I mean, one of the strengths of cash is the fact that it's completely private. I can go to an ATM, take out cash, buy whatever I want, and the government doesn't know. And that's very important. It's very important to have the feeling of freedom and privacy. So there needs to be a middle line. And I'm completely okay if Bitcoin turns into a thing that is, or the blockchain technology is being used in governments to actually show people that this is what we're doing with your money. Because the amount of ridiculous spending in politics is insane. Even in Sweden, Sweden is supposed to be the country with the absolute lowest corruption. We have spending in the local governments that are just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, laughable what the amount of money that they're spending on things, right? So Bitcoin, we look at Bitcoin and say, oh, it might be the top. But if Bitcoin truly achieves its purpose in the world, we're not talking about 60K. We're talking about, probably fantasy numbers, several hundreds of thousands, if not even more, because it then turns into a significant part of, democracies. It's an amazing technology. And I think fundamentally Bitcoin is just, it can definitely be the future of a new financial world. So when people like Trump, now you might, say it doesn't really matter what you think about Trump, but if you actually listen to what he's saying about cryptocurrencies and then compare it to Biden, because that's all we have. We have their words, and then they can do whatever they want, but we still have to, somewhere we have to believe that there is a possibility of them actually doing what they're saying they're going to do. And we have to take a chance. And looking at what Trump is saying on cryptocurrencies, he's way more open to the possibility of introducing Bitcoin and cryptocurrency more into the everyday American life, while Biden is more cautious when it comes to regulatory standpoint. And there's not really any way of knowing what's good long term for Bitcoin, because short term, obviously, if Trump gets elected on the things that he's talking about, Bitcoin is going to move to the upside. But long term, we don't know what effect that has long term, because that might just be fishing for votes, and he doesn't have a long term plan for Bitcoin. So it's a real difficult situation. But what we have to remember is that fundamentally, Bitcoin is a really, really strong asset and has the potential to change the world, really. And I think that's the reason why I'm invested in Bitcoin, really.
Very well said. And I just remembered you mentioned Germany's weird stance when it comes to Bitcoin, and I just wanted to very quickly comment on this. I actually did a video about exactly this week as well. Like, what is really the true reason why Germany sold the 50K in Bitcoin? And this is because of the law in Germany. So this 50K Bitcoin were seized assets from criminal behavior of a pirate movie and series exchange, I think called movie2k.to or something like this. And this one was closed down already in 2013. But the guy running this whole operation was captured, I think, in 2024 recently, just or 2023 he was captured. And when they made kind of a deal with him, give up your assets and you'll get off the hook probably more easy with less jail time than you normally would. So we're basically not going to lock you away for the rest of your life. And the assets he had to give up was not only the money that he made from this platform, which were millions of US dollars, which he, as it seems, back then exchanged into Bitcoin. So this is where the Bitcoin stemmed from, probably from 2013, where he bought for the US dollar then 50K Bitcoin. And according to law, when the German government seizes assets and the asset is in danger of depreciating very fast, that means that it can depreciate in a short period of time by more than 10%, which is the case for Bitcoin. I mean, we see that every day, 10% to the upside and to the downside is like nothing. Then they have to sell it in what is called an emergency sale. So it's kind of funny to call it emergency sale, first of all, because the decision was made in January and they sold it just recently. But, it's politicians, bureaucracy.
Yeah, that's government,
So 6 months is emergency already. And so they had to do it. Of course, this is like the official line. The unofficial line, which I more follow, is now, well, of course, you need money because there are probably going to be rights infringed of third parties like filmmakers, film distributors, scammed individuals, whatever, who need to be compensated. The question is, however, why don't you use the money that was defrauded back then, which was, if he bought for the highest price in 2013, that would have been something like 59 million US dollars and not 2.7 billion US dollars. This is what the stuff is worth today. So in my opinion, you should have set aside like 100 million or whatever to cover those legal things that are going to happen now, third-party claims, and the rest you could have kept. But this shows very deeply, and I think I'm allowed to say that as a German myself, how the average German politician, how the average German citizen really ticks. There's a law, so we have to follow that law by the word abiding, so to say.
Yeah.
There is no left and right, which of course you could argue is also kind of a good thing, because it shows the legal system works. But for cases where you are very far left or right on the fringes of what is normal, of course, this is a stupid move to make. And I think Michael Saylor, for example, he tweeted something in German then. So he tweeted the German translation of, well, everybody buys Bitcoin at the price they deserve. And this is going to follow. I'm very sure this is going to be a huge meme a couple of years down the road.
Yeah. I think also, when you're in government and you have people, they bring in experts. They probably have like a handful of people sitting in a room talking about this, and they probably bring in, economic experts that are not experts in cryptocurrency. They probably bring in some banking people, and all they have learned is that Bitcoin is risky, crypto is risky. You don't want to have anything to do with that. And they have, a small group of people sitting in a room talking about how they should solve this problem. And then you have the Bitcoin community saying like, what are you doing? This is crazy. You're missing out on an insane amount of potential profits that you could use to have held, and then you distribute it out to the actual German people. And it's like, Yeah, it's crazy how it seems like you ask the government to do something, and it seems in most cases extremely slow and inefficient.
Yeah,
And this is one of those cases.
It's a bit like a young guy making his driver's license, and then he gets, like, because he also finished school, something like from grandma 10,000 euros or US dollars or whatever, as a present. And instead of setting some of it at least apart, he spends it all on buying a new fancy car or whatever, or what he perceives as a fancy car. It's a bit like this behavior, but for the politicians, probably like, oh, there are budget holes that I can easily fix by that. I heard, for example, that like this amount of money, the 2.7 billion US dollar euros, the German state of Saxony, which will be on the receiving end eventually of this money, they could pay off half of a debt with it. And this is what I am thinking about, I in my opinion. Of course, nobody wants to be responsible also, if they don't sell it and price goes down a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's like one other thing where we're a little bit philosophical today, but I think it's important to really talk in times like this about things like this. It's not only always about, executing trades and watching fancy indicators. We do that enough. I think it's really, really important, especially in cryptocurrencies, especially for Bitcoin, to from time to time get a little bit philosophical and remember, why are we in the scene? Why do we invest, especially in Bitcoin? No, not because it's an asset that can go just up, can go down as well, but it's also a fundamental change that it brings to the world that we want to participate in, if I may say it like this. However, one thing maybe before we end today's live stream is I want to have a look here. Actually, I want to show you, because I like to trade this asset, Popcat US dollar, and it has seen, again, crazy performance over the last days. We saw it going from the low 30s here to almost $1 US. I think it topped out here at 95 cents. So a casual 194% within just a matter of days or weeks. However, for me, what is kind of interesting here on a very high level now, of course, is that, in my opinion, we really see a change in market structure. We had before this, now I'm struggling again to find my brush. Here we go. We had this large, very, very broad, of course, sideways area between around about 70 cents and down here 20 cents. And for me, it seems a bit like we broke out here. We made the last low here. We made a high here. Then we made a higher low here. And just recently, we made a higher high here. And for me, it's interesting now that we saw a bounce back in this area. So it's kind of, at least for the moment, looking for me like it wants to really take $1 US and break out over $1 US. And because we've been so philosophical, actually today, I want to buy something market here. So I'm going to use just a small position because it moves so much. We don't need like a high leverage here, in my opinion. I'm going to buy $1,000 of Popcat now here. And before you can talk me out of it, I'm just going to execute the trade. So we're going to see, I bought it and it goes down here immediately. And so I want to monitor this position kind of a bit more long term. Normally we are always scalping here. So talking about like 5, 15, 20, 30 minutes trade. This one, I really want to see now, are we going to see that the market can hold on to this area here around 73 US dollar cents? Or are we going to see a return into this channel here? And if that is the case, we're probably going to see prices also very fast going down to this area between 35 and 40 cents here. So let's see. Tremendous upside potential. Of course, a lot of danger to the downside. So if we really go below this last lows here in the high, like 68 US dollar cents, we need to get out of this trade for sure as well. So I'm later on going to put there a stop loss as well. But this is something that kind of sprung into my eye. And, I just want to show you don't need to always have like super fancy analysis and do all kinds of crazy stuff. Sometimes it's really just about, hey, higher highs, higher lows, let's jump for it. Upside potential is larger than the downside potential at the moment.
No, I agree with you. If you share my screen, I'll show you. I got my analysis on here as well. And I think it's definitely a break of structure. It's a very simple, a very simple analysis here. We can use,
And by the
from.
way, we did not talk about this beforehand. So
No, we didn't. So that from that wick up to that wick, you'll see that you have a very, a very obvious bounce, very obvious structure change. So the way I would play this is I would base it on the fact that it's a daily setup. I'm looking at this as daily levels. Well, that level is based on the 4 hour, but it makes a lot of sense on the daily. And then if you look at the 4 hour, there's actually really good price action here, where you first have the initial reaction right here, and then you have a strong 4 hour candle. Right here is a strong 4 hour pin bar candle. Well, there's a big wick on that one. And what I like about this is if you add a line right here, when I see something like this, I would try to get in on like the retest of that level, and then stops below the level, and you see that we would have been filled on that one right there. So the fact that that setup would have been filled because it's a nice. We actually do have a downtrend right here. And then we have an uptrend forming here with higher highs and higher lows. There's a good break of structure on the high time frames and also the lower time frames. And the way I would trade this is now the way I'm trading my live account, usually mostly in the forex market. But the way I would trade this is to look for a move up just to take out the highs right there, and then increase stop loss a little bit. So around 1 hour or something like this. But I think this makes sense to see price continue higher and just test the highs of this range up here.
The thing is also, it's like we're talking about $1 as a potential target here at the moment. And it's like when you're talking about meme coins or altcoins in general that come from very, very low prices, you very often hear things like, oh, Shiba Inu to $1. So this price of $1 is like, as it seems for a lot of people investing in altcoins and meme coins, something very, very important. And I bet if the price really reaches $1, if that really happens and maybe goes even higher to 105 or 110, this will be really something brought up by the crypto media, by influencers on there. So there's probably a lot of attention going to come in for Popcat. Now, just be aware, I'm not saying like this is a great long-term investment. It's a meme coin. And I strongly believe eventually all meme coins are going to zero versus Bitcoin, also versus US dollar, because there is nothing like that brings the crypto scene forward, in my opinion, at least. But from a trading perspective, this I think is a really, really good chance. I would be even willing maybe to top up a little bit should we really see prices going to 60 or 50 or something like this. Although that probably would be stupid because, as I just said, next entry then more like at 35 or 40 cents again. So let's see how that goes. I didn't risk a lot, just $1,000. We always have to be aware, of course, also when trading something like this, because I bought the future now, that we have funding rates, and this funding rate is at the moment positive, which means that long positions pay short positions. So every 8 hours, 0.0211% at the moment are, so to say, already deducted from my potential profit, because I'm long now and I have to pay this funding rate to holders of short positions. You need to be aware of that. It doesn't really matter that much, if you take a low position size like I did here with $1,000. However, if you want to trade something like this with a leverage of 1 to 100 or whatever, because you think like, oh, this is the trade that's going to make me rich, be aware of this. The longer this trade goes on, the poorer you will get, because 100 times 0.02, well, then we are talking about 2% already every 8 hours being deducted from your actual account. So 2% of 1,000 would be $2 $20 every 8 hours. And if you hold on to a position like this for a couple of days, a week or something, that is quite significant. So careful here with leverage.
That is significant,
Yeah.
actually.
This is also the reason, in my opinion at least, why a lot of beginner traders lose money trading crypto futures. It's another story, of course, if you're on the short side, when you would be on the receiving end. However, as we just said, we are kind of in an uptrend there, at least according to what we are seeing right now on the charts. So you also don't necessarily want to be on the short side and get 2% per day, which also doesn't matter if the price goes up by 20% per day. You're going to end up with the same problem, just from the different side of things.
Yeah.
So I'm, of course, going to keep you posted on that position. Also on the Telegram group, as always. If you haven't joined the Telegram group yet, you'll find a link also in the description of this video to do so. I talk about all kinds of things, crypto related, market related. There also about my grid trading activities. It's for free. There's no sales pitch or anything I'm trying to sell you. Check in if you want to know more. Any last words?
Yeah. One last thing. If Bitcoin enters a bull market now, it would be the first time since, Bitcoin entered a bull market after a halving. So it's, Bitcoin entering a bull market now is just completely different than every other time.
It is different entering a bull market? You mean bear market? Or?
Bear market, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like if Bitcoin enters a bear market now, it's completely different from what has happened every single time in the past.
Absolutely, and this is one of the reasons why I show this logarithmic regression chart. Or delete the logarithmic regression. Just look at the long-term, weekly, daily logarithmic chart of Bitcoin. You can see that very beautifully for yourself. Is it possible that this happens? Of course it's possible. Everything is possible on the markets. We never know. We cannot look with 100% certainty into the future. Is it very likely? In my opinion, not. Because by the end of the day, as traders and as investors, no matter the time frame you are trading, we are always looking for the patterns that repeat themselves with a higher probability than 50%. And this is what we're seeing here. This is so far in history has been a 100% chance trade. I mean, it happened with a 100% chance since Bitcoin's existence in 2009, every 4 years.
Exactly. It's that's what we do. That's what technical analysis is. It's finding patterns and then looking at how often they repeat and then manage risk accordingly. And for Bitcoin, it's very simple.
Yeah. But of course, guys, you please do your own due diligence. No, and just because we are sitting here and saying like, oh, this is what we think happened, doesn't necessarily mean that this is what is happening. So please don't risk your life savings just because of our opinion. You need to sit down. You need to assess your own willingness to risk money. You need to do your own analysis. Take us as you want as an inspiration here, maybe to start your own analysis. And yeah, we will, of course, then come back in a couple of months, in 18 months latest, to see how, if this, what we were saying here today, has riped like fine wine or has riped like milk.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
Good. All right. Well, Jonatan, thank you again for doing this with me. Always more fun to do that with more people than just my voice. And I'm always happy to hear, of course, your spin on things as well. Always surprised, like just now on Popcat, when we come to the same conclusion without really talking about it. So thanks again. Everybody out there, remember to leave us a like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and check out the other content we have online here. And yes, we're going to see you latest again next week when we check out how our Popcat trade was performing for that week. Take care, everybody, and bye.
Take care. Thank you for having me, Dirk.